for sure.
All right. Well, let's get this party going here. So we respect your time here. So
Yeah,
first
sure.
off, thanks for joining us. Um, you were on a call with us, I think last year during the pandemic, and it was really funny because we always tell people to read the red book, read the red book, read the red book, and it was funny that you shared that you built your team off of the red book, but you weren't working at Keller Williams at the time.
Yeah, that's right.
So you're kind of our listen. Other agencies are using the red book. You might as well sit down and read the red book because obviously it works.
Yeah, I remember I didn't have any. I was independent. I was 23 years old and didn't have any training or a franchise behind me or really any of that. Sort of building a brokerage and a sales business out of nothing, and that was the book that I had, right? And I was like, well, I'm gonna follow this as sort of a manual, just because I didn't have any other options or alternatives at that point.
So I'll kind of introduce Dave a little bit, and then Dave, you can go from there. But Dave is an agent that built his team from literally just as an agent, and then built a team and brought on people like the Red Book teaches you. And he is one of those seventh level people where Dave isn't really dealing with clients. He has a team that deals with it. Dave, how many people do you have on your team now?
So in our real estate sales business, there are about 20 people, and 9 of them are agents, and then 11 are either leaders or support staff.
Gotcha. And what made you say, I want to build a team?
Yeah, great question. It was one of those moments where I was helping to run a brokerage we were building, and then I was in my sales business at the same time. And reading a book like The One Thing, where if you're chasing too many things, you're not going to be good at any of them. And I was at the point in my early 30s where we had a successful brokerage, from the outside, and I was selling 50 or 60 homes myself. But I was working 100 plus hours a week. And, it was that constant point where you're constantly on all the time, and, you're eating dinner with your family and you're like, hey, I got to go to the bathroom, and you're taking your phone with you so you could like sneak a text because you feel like they have to have a response right away. And, watching some head shake. We've all been there. And, I think I lived that for like a month or a year too long. It was just got to too much. I actually visited the country of Haiti and spent a couple of weeks there a couple of different times. And, it was just that shock of like, I don't know that I can do this at this level for my whole life. There are plenty of people who have a lot of need in the world and are actually much happier and more content than I am with all this sort of stuff going on. So I think it was a real internal look at that. And I said to myself, I am either going to change the way that I do it, or I'm just going to get out of real estate. So I hit a wall where I just was willing to make that decision. So yeah, I studied up on building a team where we could serve the customer at a high level. And ultimately it wasn't me serving the customer, but we would have different roles for each individual. And it would allow hopefully me to have a lot more leverage, and also the people on the team to have more balance than they would on their own as well. So the vision was that all of our lives would be enriched if we could build a systems-based organization where people had specialty roles and could cover for each other and get a little bit more balance back.
Now, we all know how realtors are, where we always think that we know how to do it the best way and handle people the best way. What was the hardest part of real estate for you to hand over?
I think sort of lowering my pride. If I'm honest, I have this mantra that it has to be, if it's going to be done, it has to be done by me. And I think we all have a bit of a limiting belief. If we've gotten some success in this business, a lot of us need to be in control and just waking up every day and knowing that I have to do everything if it's going to be done right, and going from that belief that is totally crystallized to just accepting that that isn't true, and that there's millions of organizations all over the planet where the founder is not doing all the work. Like, it happens every day in every industry, and somehow we think that it's different in this industry. But getting rid of that limiting belief and giving up control was the hardest transition.
Now, I've met your director of ops at a career vision, and then I heard her speak at the agent masterminds for the region a couple of weeks ago, maybe months ago now. But she really seems like she hits on all levels and is very on top of things. How long ago did she come into your business?
She started working at my office when she was 15. So I don't know if it was legal for her to work, but her mom was my very first hire, and her mom moved on and actually passed away eventually. But she started working as a front desk person at our brokerage, and then she was my administrative assistant when I was a single agent, and then she was transaction coordinator when we hired our first buyer's agent, and then eventually moved into the operations director role. So she's been with me for over a decade. I think she's around 30 now, so maybe 15 years actually.
That's funny. She's going to be 30 telling people she's been in the business for 15 years.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
How much has she taken off your plate? Having a good director of ops that's there and hits on high levels, how much time does she give back to you?
Yeah, well, when she took over transactions on 50 or 60 transactions back when I was doing those, easily half of my work week was given back to me at that point. So a good 20 or 25 hours a week. At this point, she works a pretty strict 40 hours a week. She doesn't work more than that. But my business is separated into two sides: sales, which consists of marketing and sales, and then operations, which consists of transaction coordination, client care, and finance. And she takes that whole half of the business and makes sure that it's hitting the indicators and the standards that we set. Plus, she just handles anything that is crazy in my head that I need to sort of pass off to her, and administers it. So at this point, she's sort of taken over half of my business. And it's invaluable. The amount of time that she takes off of my plate.
So what do you do with the extra time now?
Yeah, so anytime I have extra time, we do a process called Delegate and Elevate. So we're always looking at 4 quadrants. So you could just draw 4 quadrants. You can Google Delegate and Elevate and just draw that. Very simple. In the top left, it's things that I'm great at and I love to do. The next is things that I'm good at and I like to do. Next is things that I'm good at and I don't like to do. And the bottom right is things that I'm not good at and I don't like to do. And we do one of those every quarter. And it's one of the most helpful things that I think a growing business can do. And you write down everything that you possibly do in your work week. Literally everything. Just write it down on a list. You might have like 40 things, and then bucket it in one of those 4 quadrants, and bucket all the things that you love and you're great at, and so on. And so we do that, and I try and make sure that, and she tries to make sure that she is taking the things in my lower right quadrant, the things that I don't like to do and I'm just not good at, and making sure they're off my plate. And it essentially means that I can continue to focus more and more in that upper left quadrant, things that I'm great at. And the more when she takes 3, 5, 6 hours off my plate a week, and I can focus on activities that generate more business or that provide more vision or leadership, ultimately that helps the organization get healthier and healthier. And it ultimately provides more opportunity. A growing, healthy business, profitable business, provides more opportunity for the people within the business to grow in their career into leadership roles and into more responsibilities and compensation. And so for us, we have career visioning done on every team member. every person in the organization. We know where they want to be in the next 3 to 5 years. I have all of that constantly on my desk where I can see every person in the organization where they want to be. And then when we do Delegate and Elevate, I can focus on growing the business with those hours, which then we can help them get to where they want to go in the organization.
Gotcha. We did have some agents send in questions. So one of the agents' questions was, when you had decided that you were going to start a team, how much did you put aside to be able to finance your team?
Yeah, great question. I've always used a rule of thumb, maybe a little more conservative than most, but that we always need to have 6 months reserves in an account. So we always want to be able to pay 6 months of our total bills without another dollar coming in. And so if I'm thinking about starting a team or any business for that matter, and I'm going to hire a transaction coordination person and maybe take on a few thousand a month in marketing and lead generation expense, I'm going to add both of those expenses up and make sure that I have 6 months in an account before I make that hire and start spending that money.
What's the biggest mistake that you made while building your team that you would advise others against doing?
Yeah, great question. I think the biggest mistake that I made, and I made a course correction on it, fortunately, but I also do some consulting with team owners around the country, and I see this same mistake over and over again that I made. So it's a pretty prevalent one. It is two things really. The main thing is that they don't follow the right economic model. So they don't follow the red book essentially, and they end up building a brokerage instead of sort of the model that the model that the MREA book calls for. And so they're not profitable because of that. They don't have the margin to provide enough value to the team members and the agents to differentiate themselves from a brokerage. And so they end up with just, in this mentality, and this is the second mistake, is growth for growth's sake. So we, in our culture, in our industry, we talk about growth a lot, and there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, with growth. But if we only grow for growth's sake, what we end up is with our business looks like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. So we add a bunch of people, and we don't have a foundation of a robust, business engine of additional overflow of leads to help those people. And we don't have an operations department and an onboarding department and an HR department, and we don't have proper finance structure and an economic model. So the business looks big, and a lot of people are doing a lot of production, but when you look under the hood, a lot of people are stressed out, and the lead agent is trying to be all things to all people, and we call it the genius with 1,000 helpers. We're spinning 1,000 plates, and everything has to run through the owner. And what the owner set out to build actually is, it's a business that they're not running. The business is running them. And, it's back to where I was 10 years ago, working 120 hours a week and not profitable. And I'm on the wrong economic model, and I'm growing for growth's sake. So those two sort of things is just making sure you are growing in a healthy way for the right reasons, and that you're on the right financial model so that you actually have a value proposition that's different from a brokerage.
So what sort of metric do you use to bring on more, say, buyer's agents? Because you shared that you have more support staff than you do agents.
Yep. So for us, for our team, and all teams are different. It's just how we look at it. We don't typically bring on another agent unless we have an overflow of business. And the way that we look at our business when we partner with an agent is we say, our hope is you're going to generate at least the average in the industry, which is 6 to 7 transactions, according to National Association of Realtors. You're going to generate that yourself. And then our team's going to generate a good bit of business. And through partnering with us, we're going to get you to 24 transactions in your first year. So in order for us to come forth with that guarantee of getting them to 24 transactions, we need to help generate about 17 or 18 for them. And then they self-generate the rest. So for us, we just can't afford to bring on another buyer agent unless we have too many leads and too many appointments and not enough people.
Gotcha. Now, do you ever come out of I guess say retirement and take leads if you see something slipping?
I haven't met with a buyer or seller in probably six or 7 years now. So my folks here in the organization sort of poke fun that I bought a house as a rental property to help someone a couple months ago, and the buyer's agent who was serving me on the team was out of town and needed me to do the second showing myself, and I realized I couldn't get in. I didn't know how to. I don't have the app to use the lockbox. It's a big catastrophe that I called the owner, and I was one of those clients. And so I don't really get on the MLS anymore or have access to a lot of those tools. So they definitely handle 100% of everything.
Gotcha. How do you sell yourself as a team to your potential clients? Well, I guess it's not you selling yourself; it's your agents, but how do they sell the team aspect to the clients?
Yeah. So they, when they know that I'm not in the business anymore. And so I think one question people often ask, and I don't know if this is what you're getting at or not, but like if somebody calls me, which I get those calls all the time, right? My cell phone, and says, hey, could be a friend of a friend. Hey, we're thinking about putting a house on the market. Can you come out? Because they don't know that I don't meet with clients anymore. So how do we sell the team as opposed to, them wanting myself as the founder of the team? And the answer is always been the same. When I got out of production, I stepped totally out all at once. I was doing only listings, and I just decided I was not going to take another piece of business. And I actually changed jobs on our organizational chart. So I went from lead listing agent on our accountability chart to sales director at that point. I'm no longer in that role, but listing agent to sales director and operations director. I filled both of those seats for about a year. And when people called me, I would just explain, hey, have you heard about my job change? I actually changed jobs. When they would say, come out to my house, I would say, did you hear about the job change? And they would say no. And I would explain that the good news is all your referrals have helped us to grow a great business. It's been a blessing, but a little bit of a curse too. I get the boring side of the job now. Our team's grown so big that I do the boring stuff, the financial work, the making sure your home is marketed well, the training of the agents. And now we have great people that have shadowed me over a dozen times, and they're the boots on the ground. So I'll get you set up with the best person who will fit you and do mornings or afternoons work better, and they'll take great care of you. And now you have the benefit of me in the background, making sure your property is marketed really well. And all of the behind the scenes stuff is done, and you'll have a great person on the front end communicating with you every week. Do you have any questions, or what works better for you mornings or afternoons? So it wasn't a big, complicated ordeal. It was just some messaging that we put out about that we were growing, and that excited about my role change, and excited that they now have a whole team behind them as opposed to just one person, myself.
Gotcha. So Stephanie put in the chat, what's your core value proposition for your team? And did you develop that over time or created it before you launched?
You just cut out right in the beginning. Can you repeat?
Yep. What is your core value proposition for your team? And did you develop that over time, or did you have that core value proposition before you launched?
Yeah. And let me just clear up. Are you talking about for our team members to join our team, or our value proposition to the consumers?
Steph, team members to join.
Yep. Perfect. So it's a couple fold. So from a missional standpoint, our three measurables, we're seeking to enrich people's lives when they interact with us. And our three measurables that we track are, do all of our tenured team members who have been with us a year have a clear written path to what personal and professional freedom looks like for them? And that's where we get into career visioning and making sure we understand their why and what they want their life and their business and their family and whatever else is important to them, their faith, to actually look like in the next 3 to 5 years. And that's what I have constantly in front of me. And for me to actually follow through with that and enrich their lives, I need to understand how our team, as it's growing, can be a vehicle for them to get closer and closer and closer to that reality for themselves in the next 3 to 5 years. And so then we check in with our team members every 90 days to do a mission check. Are we getting further or closer to where you said you wanted to be in 3 to 5 years? Income wise, work-life balance wise, fitness wise, faith wise, family wise, vacation wise. It gets very specific. And we review that with them. So for our team members, that's just super important missionally to us that we're following through with that. And then also just more of a nuanced value proposition. It's our professional services that we provide to help give them leverage. So the first one is going to be not leads, but our ISA department takes the leads and we set appointments for our agents. So the first value proposition is appointments that are set in your calendar for you. So you're going to generate your own business like everybody else, but then our ISA team is going to pop appointments into your calendar on a weekly basis. And we are able to almost always honor about 2 new buyer appointments for our buyers agents each week. So 2 new buyer appointments each week that we set and put in their calendars for them. And then they supplement that with their own business. And then additionally, in our sales department, we're, have a morning lead generation time. And every morning we start in gratitude and train for about 20 minutes on all the nuances about how to get offers accepted in this, in this environment, how to talk to your database, how to generate business. So every single day for 20 minutes, we're training on, and then we're doing a culture of accountability. So we provide leadership and accountability every morning for 2 hours, and we're all here in the office or the TV's on with just like this, and we can see each other. There's music, there's the chat going, people are ringing a bell, and they're doing lead generation activities every day. And so providing that environment for them every single day is another piece of the value proposition. And then operationally, the value proposition is, a full onboarding and training suite to make sure they're trained up in their first 90 days, a growth coach to mentor them through their first 12 transactions. And then all of their transactions are coordinated for them. Even their replies to inspections will take over for the agents so they can stay out of the negotiation of the replies to inspection and get back to serving the new appointments and being in sales and touching with their clients on a relational level. So it's just all of the leverage around them to get them to their 3 and 5 year motivational goal faster than they might do it on their own.
Gotcha. That's the daily training. That's amazing.
Yeah, and it was hard. It was a heavy lift, right, to come up with training that was actually engaging. But after we've got a point where our sales director plans it out 6 months in advance, and our agents, our veteran agents or our pod leaders, we call them now, do a lot of those trainings for the rest of the agents, which is really cool, and we find a lot of engagement in it now.
Next question is, what is one thing you thought would be more difficult in your business that you realized after you did it that it was much easier?
And I'll answer that. And I also saw a question come in the chat too about inspection. What does it look like that our transaction coordinators handle the reply to inspections? Do you want me to get that real quick?
Yeah.
Yep. So essentially it didn't go well at first. And so we had a 6 month sort of integration because the handoff wasn't intentional enough. Now we have a process for the handoff, and we track how many times the agent has to come back into the transaction. It's at about 10 or 12% right now. So about 85, 90%, we're able to keep the agent out. Essentially what it looks like is as soon as the agent wraps up the negotiation and gets the ratified contract, they pass it off to the transaction coordinator like they always did, but they have a dialogue that they say, and then an email template that the agent sends to the client. And in our actual buyer and listing presentation, when they first meet with us, it sets the expectation way out in advance that, hey, here's a picture of all of our team members, and they circle transaction coordinator. She's been licensed for however many years. She actually coordinates 150 transactions, if you can imagine that. And so she's just amazing at like the negotiation, the coordination. She's does a really good job. I mean, most agents handle 15, 20 transactions. She does 150. So you're in great hands. So as soon as I get done with the part that you hired me for, the negotiation and getting you that property at the right price, we're going to pass it off to the real expert that holds everything together for you. And her name's JD. And then, so we circle that and we really tee up the transaction coordinator as amazing as they are for what they do. And then when we hand it off, we send that email that says it's a next steps email. It's another expectations reminder. Hey, great news. You're going to hear from the expert JD next, and she's going to make sure your inspections are coordinated. Trust me, you don't want to hear from me during the contract to close process, because that just means JD ran into a problem that I probably can't fix. So you're in great hands with her, and you'll only hear from me if there's an issue. And again, you probably don't want to hear from me. So she'll be in touch with you shortly. And then as soon as they send that email, JD's notified, and then she calls the consumer. And it's a really fast, like, hey, it's JD. You probably just got our email, you remember. And the customer at that point is very in tune with what her role is and respects her role at a high level. And so that's how we make that handoff a lot more seamless than it was when we first tried to do it. And then
that seems to be a challenge all over, with teams is what the handoff looks like. Yeah,
it didn't look good at first. I mean, it was a total train wreck for us. People were like, but yeah, behind every issue, there's usually a training or a process solution we found. I tend to like, an issue happens, I'm all emotional. But honestly, like, if you just, what is the problem? How can we be proactive and create a process to solve it? And now it goes a lot smoother. And if anybody, by the way, if anybody on here wants a copy of any of our checklists, any of our processes, contract to close checklist, listing checklist, handoff checklist, you can reach me. I'll put my personal email address in here for you. It may take a few days because I'll have to get it from the team members that own those checklists, but you're welcome to shoot me an email here and I can share anything that would be helpful to you guys.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
If you want to, it's Christina. If you want to send that over to me, I can make sure it's sent out to our roster. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are interested.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. Let's follow up after that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Wait, so
you had another question that I didn't answer. Oh, somebody else had one.
Is am I emailing them or not emailing? Was Christine taking care of this? Because I have my email pulled up right now. I was ready to go.
I got you, buddy.
Oh, there's a good one. Have you noticed a difference in client retention rate and clients referring your team new business from when you transition from the agent handling most of the transaction to handling transaction? Have you noticed that? You can read it.
Yep. At first I did. And it wasn't necessarily a retention rate. Our referral business has not gone down since we did that. And we do track that. It's continued to go up, and our database has gotten bigger, and our marketing to that database has continued to get more. So the referrals have continued. We track something called an NPS score, Net Promoter Score. You can look up the math behind that. But after every transaction, we track Net Promoter Score. It's essentially a measurable about how likely is the client to refer you a friend or family member after the sale. And we noticed that Net Promoter Score went down after we implemented the handoff the way that, not when we just did the normal transaction coordinator handoff, but when we took the agent out of the negotiation of the inspections. That Net Promoter Score went down temporarily. But now it's back up to where it was before that. And so we're very happy with it now. But we did not ever see a reduction in actual referrals per year, but to your point, it could have something to do with, we continue to market to more people each year as well.
Did it answer your question there, Ray? We'll assume so.
Just a quick follow-up. Can you tell me what percentage of clients refer you new business?
Yeah, so our business do maybe around 300 and this sales business that we're talking about do about 300 and maybe 50 transactions or so. About 55% of them are referrals and past clients, and 45% are other sources of business. We don't actually do anything with AI marketing. And I'm happy to share the marketing pillars that we do use if that's at all helpful.
Dave, what would be the one thing that will help an agent be successful as they start to build a team right now? One piece of advice.
My best piece of advice is don't add people until you have more opportunity than you can handle. Don't add more. The one thing is grow your business until you have too much opportunity for yourself to handle, and then add a person. When we get in trouble with retention issues, it's always an issue of lack of value. And the thing that's most valuable in our business is new business. And so you'll get rid of a lot of stress and angst that comes with hiring a lot of people without having a lot of extra business to help supplement their business and them complaining or feeling slow or what's the value proposition here. If you just have more business than you can handle, and that is the start of your value proposition, because that's the most valuable thing in our business is lead generation. And if our value proposition doesn't start there, we tend to have a lot of stress and angst around management and emotion and problems and relational, toxicity, and people part ways. Whereas if you just have too many leads and people around you are very busy, a lot of that goes away, and it makes building a team a lot easier and more manageable.
Do you use ISAs? If so, how many?
We do. Our team, as of Monday, has four inside sales associates.
Are they cold calling? Are they following up, or what's their jobs?
Yep. So they're responsible for being on shift during the day, 8 a.m. till 8 p.m., and taking all of the business that the team generates and following our lead management protocol to set qualify, build trust, set appointments, and then nurture the ones that aren't hitting a buying or selling window right now. And that business, those calls, inquiries, comes from all of our lead sources. Again, 55% of that's our database. And then in between their shifts, they'll time block outbound call sessions to hit some of our colder, unconverted leads that have been in the system for years. Or in this market, it's a little different with expireds and FSBOs, but in a typical market, they would be hitting a lot of them, and doing a little bit of cold calling, some circle prospecting and things like that. Obviously, follow the do not call list and check with, counsel to make sure you're doing that right. But yeah, they'll do some of that. But I would say 80% of their business is inbound, team generated, about 20% is outbound.
And then I have to ask, because 55% referrals, and that's pretty good. What do you attribute that high success rate to?
Well, in the Red Book, it says that it's just math. So if you already have a group of people that know, like, and trust you, and a certain percentage of them will people run from pain. So when pain happens in their life, they have a problem. They need to think about buying or selling a home. And the math is that 76% of people, when they have a problem, they have to downsize or have a baby and they have to upsize, or they get, this isn't necessarily a problem, but a job change, they can afford a bigger house. 76% of them right now, according to the Red Book, contact the first real estate agent that comes to the top of their mind, that they think of, and don't even call a second one. 76% call just the first one that comes to their mind, and don't even call a second one. And so using that math, we're just sort of compulsive about our database and how important that is. It says in the Red Book that for every 10 people that you touch with your name, face, and brand that already know, like, or trust you, you'll get 2 transactions from every 10 people. And so we just have a 48 touch program. So people in our database get 4 touches a month with our brand in different types of media, and they have for 15 years. And so, they get face-to-face through our events. They get direct mail that's not generic. It's curated by me. They get static email. They get video email. And then for a lot of our agents, they get handwritten notes as well. So for that 48 touch program, it's just our goal to make sure that if we have a couple thousand people that are seeing our name, face, and our brand in the community 4 times a month, a certain percentage of them are going to have to buy or sell this year. And we just want to be the first person that they think of when they do that, so that we'll hit those ratios that the Red Book talks about.
Stephanie asked, how do you keep your team motivated?
Great question. I don't right now. Our sales director leads that. And she does a really good job. I mean, I have some just amazing people on my team. And there's a lot of leadership development that goes on in the team too. So, this is going to sound a little crazy, but if you were to shadow our team in the morning, you would see that they do their starting gratitude, they do their 20-minute training, then they go into lead gen. There is music on. People have their cameras on, they're on headphones. There's a lot of chat going on when they're having good conversations. And they say in the chat, here's what I intend to do in the next 2 hours. They have to put it in there. And they all do that. And then collectively, when we report out and close down the lead gen session at 11 a.m., they're all there and they have a 5-minute debrief. And this is the part that's going to sound a little bit crazy, but they rate the energy in the meeting together on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the energy was amazing. And anything below an 8, they have to go around the room and say, what would make it a 10 if we were to do this tomorrow? And through that, I think we should have music on. They've added music. I think we should make sure, if possible, like we are intentional and we celebrate wins in the chat. So now they do that. And every time we get below an 8, they add something to the list. And now you see an environment that is more consistently an 8 or an above in energy and in motivation in an activity that a lot of people don't feel like doing first thing in the morning, but we know we have to. But it's because they've put some intention around what do we need to do to motivate ourselves to feel better about this lead generation activity. So that's just one example about daily motivation during that time. I think the other thing that helps to keep people motivated is just from the visionary of the business, which would be me at this point, is just, it's the leader's job to, if you think of a business as little balls of energy, each pointing separate directions, that's a lot of times what we have when we have a business. Visionary, typically the leader has something in their head as to where they want the business to go and why it's such an amazing idea, but we forget to communicate that to the people in our business. And so the little balls of energy wake up every morning and they're pointing in different directions. And I think our job is to communicate to them where we're going and why it matters to them. In other words, what's in it for them. And if we do that, we'll wake up after a while, if we do it consistently, and people are all facing the same direction, going towards that same vision. And for me, it genuinely is really important to, it sounds cliche, like communicate your mission, communicate your vision. But if I don't do that every 90 days, we have a state of the company meeting for 4 hours. And I stand up there and I'm very passionate about, we are waking up every day to enrich lives. We have a nonprofit that serves anonymously people in crisis in the community. We give $80,000 away last year to people in crisis. Here's their stories. We couldn't do that without you guys, going through the grind of helping buying, selling homes. And we can't enrich the community's lives without that. And we can't enrich our clients' lives without this net promoter score. And here was what they're saying about your service. And we can't enrich your lives as team members if we don't know what your career vision is. And the growth of this team allows you to use it as a vehicle to get closer to what personal and professional freedom looks like for you. So just from a holistic, how do you motivate, maybe not as nuanced in lead gen, but just overall a community of people who wake up every day and are gonna be pointing in different directions. How do you get them pointing in the same direction toward the same mission, toward the same vision? It's communicating to them what's in your head, why it matters, and what's in it for them over and over and over and over again every 90 days. And people eventually start to say, okay, I get why this matters. I get why I'm coming to work. I get why I'll get through this next hard day, because I am doing stuff that's bigger than me and bigger than just a transaction, and my work matters. And so that's just my soapbox on, just motivation and vision and that sort of thing.
I mean, everybody has to have a motivation. Everybody has to have a purpose and a goal. Anne-Marie, you had your hand up. Are you still on?
Actually, I didn't. I was applauding. Thank you. I love the motivation. I love the gratitude training, lead generation, and keeping them at 10. So I was applauding.
Awesome. Thanks, Anne-Marie.
Dave, I mean, I just listening to you is amazing what you've built. What is your 1-year goal? What is the 5-year goal? What has the future for Dave Hooke?
Yeah, great question. So the 1-year plan in that business, we have measurables that the team helps to set, and they're just looking to serve 50 more families than they did last year. So 360 families, and give away 90,000 to people in need through our nonprofit. I won't go into them. There's 8 goals that they're trying to hit within the business to help make sure that we get to those measurables. And then we have a 3-year picture, and then a 10-year plan, which our 10-year plan ends in 2028. So that's just with this business to serve 1,000 families and give $250,000 to people in need in 1 year. And then I do have 6 other businesses. We have a fix and flip company as well that helps provide inventory to our real estate sales team. And then I have ownership of a market center with a business partner and a title company. And then I have a holding company where we hold properties that's run by a great person. And then I have a consulting company that's a marketing and consulting coaching company. And so for me, it's I sort of have some business unit leaders in each of those businesses, and I get to provide vision and help them run each of those businesses in a healthy way and serve the people in them and the clients. So, looking into the future, we've just realized that one of my passions is to grow the businesses in a healthy way to provide more opportunity for the people in them. And our market share in our small town here in Carlisle is, we probably can't grow a whole lot more in this town. So we're excited over the next couple of years about, learning how to take our professional services, our systems, our marketing services, our database. I have a marketing guy that runs all of our database systems and our social media systems, and operations runs onboarding and new agent training, and our ISA team sets appointments. We have finance division. And so just taking those professional services and being able to come along people that might be other agents that might be in pain in other areas that, would benefit from those services, and learning what those partnerships look like is super exciting to us. Just to venture out into other markets and other areas and see what those partnerships look like. So that's what we're working on right now. And hopefully, as we look to 2023, we'll be able to open some of those partnerships up.
So I heard expansion systems orientation is in your wheelhouse now?
Yeah, for sure. I've been taking notes and studying all the models out there for about 6 months. It's been a lot of fun.
But that, I did attend ESO before COVID. And the biggest thing was, is your business scalable?
Yeah.
Do you have a business? Do you have protocols? And it sounds like you have a manual and a process for about everything. So you might be the poster child for expansion.
Yeah, it's funny. We just got off a 2-day session. This is like the most boring work, but we had to map. We have 40 processes in our real estate team. We had to map our 40 processes and then put them in a system called Trainual. So essentially somebody could take each process and learn how to run each process in our business. And that's like the least sexy side of any business, right? Like sitting for 2 days and mapping out a process. But you're right, it makes the business scalable. It makes it easy for people to invest and to do the thing the same, no matter who's performing the activity. And ultimately, that's what a business is it's the mixture of those processes. And that's the boring part and the hard part, but definitely getting through
it. Have you found, you owned your team and everything before you got involved in the market center, correct?
Yep.
So have you found that, running and operating a team at a high level like you do, there's systems and processes that you can implement into the market center side, right?
For sure. And they help me. There's a ton of synergy between the market center and a team like mine anyway. I mean, it's amazing how many agents come to our organization that aren't a great fit, like for the pace and the standards, and that's okay. They just don't want that it's not their career vision. And they're a great fit for our market center and our PC program. And our PC program gets some folks in the market center that, they need a couple different value points that the market center doesn't offer, and we'll have conversations. And it's always looking for the win-win. Where's the win? The market center needs to provide a service and a culture and do things like this. I mean, I applaud you guys for doing this and getting together and learning. And that's one of the key roles of a market center, is to be able to get a large group of people together who are like-minded to learn and mastermind with each other in that locality. And I mean, I just taught 6 personal perspectives at my market center, and yet, they'll provide events or meetings and team meetings where my team can come and feel some of the culture, and we don't have to, as a team, put that together. So I just can't tell you how synergistic a well-run brokerage and a well-run team can be, if you're intentional about always finding the win-win.
Gotcha. And finishing up, if anybody else has any questions, reach out, take yourself off mute or raise your hand or put them in the chat, whichever. But my last question to you, Dave, is, in this business and running what you do and running around like you do, personally, how do you avoid the burnout? How do you blow off steam? How do you focus and center yourself again? Yeah,
so great question. It's my face, really important to me. I start each day in a devotional, and my first hour is in prayer and journaling and gratitude. And I have 3 kids under 7, so it doesn't always work perfectly, but 70-80% of the time that's my morning. And having that downtime is really important. But honestly, I would say more than anything, I can contrast my previous life, where I had to be in control of everything. I had to do everything myself. I wasn't willing to trust other people to either partner with me or subcontract to them or hire them personally to take things off my plate. And, now it sounds like I have sort of a lot going on, perhaps. But I've never been more, this is going to sound crazy, but I didn't sleep well last night. My kids got up. After this, I'm going to go home and get something to eat and take a nap for like an hour. So like I have much more, like I'll be home every night at 5:45. I'll get a full workout in 4 days a week. And I work about 35 to 40 hours a week right now. It's the least that I've ever worked, but it has nothing to do with me. All I did was get out of the way and realize that I was not nearly as important as I used to think that I was. And when I did that, and I realized that, I allowed people to step into places who were way better at things than I was and thrive in those roles. And they were opportunities for those people that they never would have had if I just didn't realize I wasn't that important. So that's why I have more rest now. It's just because I was able to somehow humble myself and let somebody else take the reins in jobs around me. And I keep waking up every morning and I repeat a mantra to myself to get out of your own way, right? I say it because even now, like something comes up, an opportunity, I'm like, oh, I'll do that. And I force myself every day to stop saying, I'll do that. It doesn't have to be done by me. I'm not that good at it. And there are other people that are better.
So it seems like it's a pride thing. Just swallow your pride and say, somebody's more.
Yeah. I remember running around and people would say, how are you doing? And it was like a pride of honor. I'm like, I'm busy. I'm so busy. I used to love saying how busy I was, right? And, I think just realizing that busyness doesn't necessarily equal impact or anybody's life being healthier. or their family being healthier. Growth doesn't equal health or anything necessarily nurturing to our souls. And ultimately, at the end of the day, all that pride does that I was carrying around is get in my own way from having some peace and giving other people opportunity as well. So yeah, lowering your pride is a journey for me. And I keep doing it every day, but it pays off and can give you the rest that you need.
All right. Well, we will let you go take a nap. But I appreciate you jumping on and spending some time with us.
Tom, thanks so much.
Great.
Much
really
appreciate
it. Yeah, you guys are awesome. I hope you have a great rest of your week. And my email's up there if you need anything. Happy to share anything that we have with you guys.
Great. Thank you, Dave.
Yep. Take care.